A quiet hangar in coastal Georgia. July heat pressing through corrugated metal walls. A Cessna 182 sits alone on flat tires. Dust on the cowling. Wasps building in the exhaust pipe. The Tatch reads 1,247 hours. The Hobbs has not moved since last August. 11 months of silence. The owner calls it storage. The mechanic calls it a countdown. Inside that engine, the camshaft sits above the crankshaft, higher than the oil line, exposed to air that drifts in through an open breather tube. The protective oil film drained off weeks ago. Moisture from the humid air condenses on bare steel surfaces every night. Rust forms on the cam lobes right now, not invisible flakes, in microscopic pits. Each pit is a seed. The answer to the title is simple. Sitting in a hangar does destroy your engine. It destroys the one part you cannot see without pulling cylinders. And the three things most owners do to prevent it make the damage worse. Have you ever opened an oil filter and found metal? Tell me what happened in the comments. Subscribe to Sky Ranch for the mechanic's truth behind every engine on the ramp. Your camshaft is the most stressed moving surface inside a piston aircraft engine. It runs the entire valve train. Every intake valve and every exhaust valve opens and closes because a hardened steel lobe on the camshaft pushes a lifter upward. That lifter pushes a push rod. A push rod rocks a rocker arm, and the rocker arm presses the valve open against spring pressure. Think of the cam lobe as a rolling anvil. It presses against the flat face of the lifter under spring load thousands of times per minute at contact pressures higher than any other moving interface in the engine. No other surface endures that kind of sustained mechanical punishment. Here is what makes the cam different from every other part inside the case. It has no bearings. Your crankshaft rides in bearing shells lined with soft metal alloy. Those shells trap a film of oil that lasts for weeks after shutdown. Your camshaft rotates bare inside machined grooves in the raw aluminum crankcase. No bearing, no shell, no retained film. When the engine shuts down, gravity pulls the oil off the cam and the lobe faces go dry. Manufacturers harden the lobe surface through a process called carburizing. Heat forces carbon into the outer layer of the steel, creating a shell that resists wear. That shell measures 15 thousandths of an inch deep, roughly 2 sheets of paper. Below it, the steel is soft. Corrosion does not need to eat through the entire lobe. A single pit through the carburized shell exposes the soft steel underneath. Once exposed, the lobe wears down within hours of operation. Mechanics call the result spalling. Tiny chips of hardened steel flake off the lobe face and drop into the oil. That metal circulates. It scores main bearings. It embeds in the soft babbitt lining of rod bearings. It grinds against cylinder walls. One corroded cam lobe can contaminate an entire engine. You never see it happen, you find it later. Cut the oil filter open and look for a silver sheen on the element. Run a magnet across the residue. Ferrous metal sticks. Blackstone Laboratories, the most widely used oil analysis service in general aviation, calls this the telltale. Iron levels spike in the oil sample. If the spike stabilizes at the next sample, the damage may be superficial. If it climbs, the cam is actively shedding material. By the time the filter tells the truth, the cam is already losing its hardened surface, and that material travels. Cam and lifter problems rarely bring down an engine in flight. A badly spalled lobe still opens the valve. The engine still runs. It still makes power. The danger is not catastrophic failure. The danger is contamination. Metal migrating through the oil destroys bearings, scores journals, and turns a $6,000 cam replacement into a $25,000 full teardown. In a Lycoming engine, the camshaft sits above the crankshaft, just under the backbone of the case. Highest internal steel surface, goes dry first, stays dry longest. In a Continental, the camshaft sits below the crankshaft. Oil drains more slowly, but it still drains. Neither engine bathes its cam in oil during storage. Both rely on splash lubrication, not pressure feed at the cam. RAM. Aircraft published it plainly in April 2026. It takes days, if not hours, for critical steel components to begin rusting when unprotected. Not months, not weeks, days. And the air inside your crankcase is not clean. The breather tube vents directly to the atmosphere. Humid air flows in and out with every temperature cycle. But moisture is only half the chemistry. Every combustion event produces blow-by, gas that slips past the piston rings into the crankcase. That blow-by carries raw avgas, partially burned fuel, water vapor, carbon dioxide, and tiny particles of lead bromide from 100 LL fuel. Those combustion byproducts react with the water and the oil to form organic acids. The acids attack steel. They attack it faster than plain humidity alone. So the cam sits high, unprotected by bearings, in an open case, breathing humid air laced with combustion acid residue. Every shutdown traps a fresh dose of blow-by chemistry inside the crankcase. Every temperature cycle draws fresh moisture in through the breather. The corrosion is not accidental. The chemistry is built into the operating environment. Fresh cylinders face an even shorter clock. Before about 50 hours of break-in, cylinder walls lack the protective varnish that normal combustion deposits over time. In humid coastal areas, corrosion has appeared on freshly honed cylinders after just a few days of inactivity. 50 hours of operation buys a varnish layer. 0 hours buys nothing. Bill Weiss at Western Skyways has overhauled hundreds of these engines since 1978. He tracked a pattern over decades. He used to reject 1 cam in 20 for reuse at overhaul. Now the rate is 1 in 7. More than triple the rejection rate on the same engine families in the same shops. Something changed. Weiss believes the problem is getting worse, not better. Aviation Consumer investigated the trend in 2019 and found something unexpected. One shop, which asked to remain anonymous, conducted metallurgical analysis and concluded the root cause might not be corrosion alone. Prior to 2000, both Lycoming and Continental used the same tappet manufacturer. That shop believes manufacturing quality in the tappet faces plays a role the industry has not fully addressed. Corrosion or metallurgy? Or both. Either way, the cam is exposed, the timeline is compressed, and the mechanism is documented. But the damage from sitting is only half the story. The real acceleration comes from what owners do next. 3 common practices claim to protect a stored engine. Each one makes the corrosion worse. Ground running is the first. Owners start the engine on the ramp, let it idle for 10 or 15 minutes, and shut it down. The logic sounds reasonable. Circulate the oil, coat the internals, keep the metal protected. Temperature kills the logic. A ground run does not bring oil to operating temperature. Lycoming specifies a minimum of 180 degrees Fahrenheit held for at least 20 minutes to boil off accumulated moisture. A 10-minute idle on a cool morning reaches maybe 140 degrees Fahrenheit, just enough to vaporize moisture from the sump. That moisture rises through the crankcase as steam. It condenses on the coldest internal surface, right on the cam. Meanwhile, the pistons scrape oil from the cylinder walls during the run. Valve train load wipes oil from the lobe faces. When the engine shuts down, those surfaces are cleaner than before the run started. Less residual oil, more bare steel exposed. Faster corrosion on the next humid night. Lycoming's own engine preservation document, Service Letter L180B, confirms it. Ground running without sustained flight temperatures does more harm than good. Hand-turning the propeller is the second. Owners rotate the prop a few blades every week to redistribute the oil. Identical result. Rings wipe the cylinder walls. Cam load wipes the lobes. 2 or 3 rotations without starting leaves the engine worse off than leaving it alone. Lycoming warns against this directly in the same document. Do not pull the engine through by hand. Leaving a sump heater plugged in all winter is the third. Electric heating pads warm the oil pan. The intention is straightforward. Warm oil protects better than cold oil. Physics says otherwise. A sump-only heater warms the oil to roughly 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Top of the engine stays cold. Moisture evaporates from the warm oil, rises, and condenses on the cold camshaft sitting at the top of the case. A sump heater creates a distillery inside the crankcase. The cam sits in the condensation zone. Continental's Bill Moss described one case directly to Av Webb. A Cirrus owner left his sump heater running for an entire winter. A borescope inspection of the IO550 revealed heavy internal corrosion. A nearly new engine, corroded by the device the owner bought to protect it. That is not protection, it is a mechanism. Which of those three have you been doing? Ground running, hand turning, or leaving the heater plugged in all winter? Every one of these practices has circulated as standard advice for decades. Lycoming's own publications contradict all three. The question now is what it costs when the filter finally reveals the truth. Cam and lifter spalling is the #1 reason piston aircraft engines fail to reach TBO. AOPA's Mike Bush documented this in 2014. Blackstone Laboratories confirmed it independently. Pinnacle Engine Overhauls confirmed it again in 2025. The finding has not changed in over a decade. After COVID, the damage surfaced at scale. Interest rates dropped. Disposable income surged. Thousands of people who had always wanted to own an airplane finally wrote the check. Many of those airplanes had not flown in 2, 3, or 5 years. The engines looked fine from the outside. Logbooks showed low time. Asking prices reflected the hours on the tack, not the years on the calendar. Pinnacle's JD told Flying Magazine the spike in cam failures traced directly to those planes. The new owners discovered the damage at the first annual. By then, the cam had already started shedding metal into the oil. The purchase price covered an airplane. The first annual invoice covered an engine. A 4-cylinder Lycoming overhaul runs $18,000 to $28,000 at a field shop. A 6-cylinder IO540 runs $30,000 to $45,000. A Lycoming factory. Overhaul starts at $58,000. A factory new engine costs $105,000. $25,000 for a cam that corroded because the design places it above the oil line. Lycoming mounted the cam above the crankshaft in the 1930s. Every other flat engine manufacturer chose below. Continental, Franklin, Jabiru, Volkswagen conversions. Lycoming never moved it. 90 years of the same architecture. Instead of relocating the cam, they engineered a better tappet. Lycoming's DLC tappets, coated with diamond-like carbon, cost roughly $80 each. A 4-cylinder engine needs 8. That is $640 for a full set. One mechanic installed DLC tappets in his IO540 at overhaul. 450 hours later, he pulled a cylinder to inspect. The lifter bottoms looked factory new. No pitting, no wear pattern, no corrosion. An O235 in Australia reached 2,880 hours, full time between overhauls, on DLC tappets. At teardown, the cam lobe surfaces still passed inspection. The cam could have gone another full run. Field reports across Vans Air Force, supercub.org, and EuroGA confirm the pattern. Shops that install DLC tappets report the spalling problem has nearly vanished. $640 in tappets, or $25,000 in teardown. CamGuard Aviation, developed by formulation chemist Ed Collin, adds multi-metal corrosion inhibitors that cling to cam and lifter surfaces during storage. It costs roughly $25 per oil change. Aviation Consumer tested it against 4 major aviation oils and measured improvement in corrosion resistance across everyone. The mechanic's verdict is not complicated. Fly every week for at least 1 hour at 180 degrees oil temperature. Change oil every 25 hours, cut the filter every time, and check for metal. Use CamGuard or equivalent. Install DLC tappets at the next overhaul and stop ground running. If you cannot fly for a month, preserve the engine properly. Lycoming has a full storage procedure in Service Letter L180B. Follow it. A 15-minute idle is not a substitute. Your cam sits at the top of the engine. It goes dry first. It corrodes first. It costs the most to replace. That arithmetic has not changed since 1938. What has changed is that the fix now costs less than a tank of avgas. Whether the fix gets installed before the corrosion starts is the only question the mechanic cannot answer for you. Subscribe to Sky Ranch. The mechanic's truth about every engine on the ramp. Are you team fly it every week or team preserve it and park it? Pick your side.